So picture this. You're out on a holiday with your lovely fiance, and you completely derail your shopping trip to go into the local game store. You see a whole section dedicated to TTRPGs, and you see an interesting yet innocuous looking book. You pick it up and flip to a random page just to get the vibes, and you are greeted by this image. Why is it here? What does it mean? You need to know more. You sadly can't afford it as you spent a smidge too much that day already, and you return to your hotel unable to get the system out of your head, and you let it become so all-consuming that you start an entire new TTRPG focused channel to start covering systems just so you can gain the experience to properly convey your thoughts and feelings on this bizarre book. This is my origin story. This is Break the RPG. Naturally, this is also a review, so let's get into it. Break the RPG, a game by the duo Carlo Tartaglia, also known as Grey Wizard, and Reynaldo Madranan, and it's my great pleasure to finally be talking about this game, especially with the Kickstarter for their new adventure book, Start, that's currently live. Hey, so you know how you plan for videos to be done on time, and then they just aren't? Because of a massive heat wave that prevents you from being able to sit at your desk editing without melting into a little puddle. So might be on that. Break is a TTRPG inspired by anime and JRPGs and uses that inspiration perfectly. Yes, I'm covering a second anime inspired game in a row, and if you don't like that, I'm not apologising and I have another one locked and loaded already. Now, I normally don't cover the settings of these sort of games often, as my reviews are typically more focused on the mechanical side of things, as settings can easily be swapped and changed, but with Break, the setting just really hooked me this time, so it gets its own little section. Break's default setting is the Outer World, and it's kind of magical post-apocalypse, which is one of my personal fave settings to have my games in, as I just think it's still a space that has so much to offer in story and world building, and Break does this wonderfully. I won't go into the exact reasonings and history because I genuinely think it's best to learn and experience it firsthand, but the idea of the world being stuck in a permanent state of day or night because oops, sun machine broke, and that directly impacting how the world's changed, and the remnants of society doing their best to rebuild and survive this new world is just mwah, chef's kiss, fantastic. But I feel what's truly strongest about the setting is the blanks that have intentionally been left for the storytellers to create their own truths for the mysteries it sets. I personally think this is the best way to build a TTRPG setting, because it means every GM will have their own version of the worlds, their own differing histories and secrets to discover, making it have that, I guess, replayability is the best way to put it. It lets the GM bring a piece of themselves into the world, and I just really like that. Alright, back to the usual structure, and of course we start with what you need to play, and this game just makes use of a single d20. All roles will make use of this and modify results case by case, as we'll go into later. Now, character creation in this is truly a treat. We first decide our calling, the game's class system, and this will determine our abilities, weapons and armors we can use effectively, as well as our starting attribute, and our callings are Factotum, one of my faves because the concept of being able to play someone whose class is focused on making the mundane into true art is absolutely fantastic. The Sneak, your puckish rogues, swindlers, charlatans, and absolute rat bastards. And side note, I love just giving him a crowbar in the art, lovely little touch. Champion, the master at arms, a big old brawler. Raider, the swift-footed beings of pure dexterity, potential masters of bows and blades alike. Battle Princess, combining bright magic and martial prowess to deliver judgment to your foes and keeping your allies safe. Murder Princess, my personal fave, both from a gameplay perspective of being masters of dark magic and expert murderizers, but just the absolute vibe they are. Sage, masters of magic and wizardry, and the source of this delightfully cursed image that I can only truly describe as Cloud Strife Inflation. This game was truly made by freaks, and I cannot give a higher compliment than that. This is the first domino that sent me spiraling where I am today on this channel. And finally, the Heretic, masters of dark summoning magics, forming contracts with a wide range of beings to help and sometimes hinder your adventure. And these are all fantastic and designed to have easily changeable names, but personally I think that having the ultimate beefcake of a man rocking a Battle Princess class is absolute peak. Each calling has 10 ranks that you progress through as you play, slowly increasing your attributes and earning new abilities to use. You start with a few abilities and every other level gain a new one from the selection of your calling offers, meaning two people of the same calling can easily end up with hugely varied abilities compared to one another. We of course get a healthy smattering of playable species, each giving their own traits and bonuses, and whilst I will cover what they are in just a moment, I want to say how lovely it's been to see such an array of diverse ages, body types, skin tones and so on throughout this book. It's always such a delight. Anyway, we have humans, gotta have a baseline after all. Dimensional strays, because maybe you just want to have an isekai adventure and goddammit the concept of John the office worker being thrown into a magic adventure will never cease to entertain me. Chibs are typical short species like gnomes and such. Just adorable little folk who are clearly hiding something sinister behind those eyes. Tenebrae, hugely diverse in appearance, seemingly shaped by the dark of the world. Rhine-Echo, what would an anime-inspired game be without our dear cat boys? Prometheans, big old beings that hatch from eggs as it turns out. Groon, some delightfully big green beings. Goblins, absolute perfection, pure scrunkily given form. Also, they are kind of mushrooms. Dwarf, how could you ever have a setting without these pure classic folk? Elf, you can't have dwarves without elves. Do not separate. And finally, biomechanoids, a mysterious species of various states of robotics, perfect for waking up and exploring a brand new world. All these species have plenty of lore, ideas for potential characters, and their own unique physiologies and histories to play around with. But as stated earlier, they all differ in certain ways, their size being a key factor in affecting what gear they'll be able to wield, how much they're able to carry, meaning your choices matter, but not at the risk of making an unfun or unplayable character. You next choose a homeland and history. This is your character's background, where and how they were raised, the story implications that come with them, alongside various abilities and prior knowledge. Each part of the world has a good few options to choose from, but I won't spoil that here. Next is traits, and these are short and sweet bonuses and negatives to your attributes, which you can either roll for or choose for. By default, you get 2 positives and 1 negative, making for some lovely potential choices to consider, or some fun things to work into your character's roleplay. It also gives me this fun little screenshot that I use in response to a lot of silly things online these days. And then we have our quirks, fun little modifiers to help further diversify our characters. The options you can roll for will be determined by your species, each having their own options to choose or roll for. And yeah, these are just really fun ways of spicing up characters. To give a few of my fave examples, we have Unhinged, because we all love a good murder goblin, but also the mechanical berserker element of high damage at the cost of your defenses. We also have Pedantic, where you're really good at research and recalling information, and even better at having the most punchable face. And one more that I just find funny is Nearsighted, because you know what? It's actually really funny to make wearing glasses a mechanical thing. Also, they gave you bonus languages, which is news to my monolingual ass. Then all that's left is to decide the more flavour features of your character and your starting gear, then you're all ready to start your adventure. So let's talk about how we play said adventures. As said earlier, the only die the game uses is d20s, and this covers checks, contests, attacks, and randomizer tables. Now, checks in this are a little interesting, as rather than trying to beat a number, you're actually trying to roll under the check's associated attribute or aptitude. Speaking of which, in this game our aptitudes are Might, your athletics and brute strength; Deftness, your agility and grace; Grit, your resilience and force of will; Insight, your ability to perceive, comprehend and think fast; and Aura, your commanding presence, be it through sheer charisma or intimidation. Now, I do think it's a little odd that checks and contests are both about rolling lower, while the attacks are about rolling higher than a target. Like, it works perfectly as intended, but can catch players who are used to other D20 systems out. Naturally, with a setting designed around the players being adventurers and explorers of a realm, with so much lost to time and war, there is a fantastic exploration system for your group to have a fun yet not too burdensome way of exploring, getting lost, finding your way, and so on. I really like their adventure map system, where you can easily create maps with designated identifiers for different routes, points of interest and adventure sites. It kind of feels like an overworld map from a JRPG, which I really enjoy, but means that you can do pre-planned journeys for a session to clearly map out plans, and as a GM, it makes life so much easier for me. There are plenty of other mechanics that help or hinder the players that can reward them for careful planning and extra prep, like investing in new gear or mounts that help with travel, or hiring guides that know the local area. And we can't just have those helpful tools without some difficulties to throw against them: hazardous terrain, various fiendish foes, encounters, and more. Once your players arrive at the intended adventure site, that's when we get more exploration mechanics, typically taking the forms of dungeons, ruins, and so on, in which players decide a series of roles to take up their lineup whilst exploring alongside your group's approach to the dungeon. Do you take it slow and steady with the cautious type, the stealthy type, prepping ambushes and making sure you go undetected, or hasty where you try and make it a speed run? Naturally, you'll be finding various forms of encounters, and sometimes you don't want to settle your problems with violence. Sometimes you want to try and sort it with words, which is arguably a battle of its own. Each side will nominate a speaker, and you as a group decide the approaches, reasonings, and methods of negotiation that you want to take to compete with the opposing team, in contest with their decided appropriate aptitudes. I'm glad that they let you use more than just a designated charisma stat in the game for this, because I love the ability to use your logic, knowledge, and experiences to influence others, rather than just being good with words. Alright, now when words fail, we always have our trusty violence to fall back to. Combat in this game is perhaps the best example of flow to tactics I've ever ran. If I were to try and summarize, I'd describe it as a classic turn-based JRPG translated to TTRPG form. The players take all their turns followed by the enemy's turns back and forth until one side's beaten. And the map system, oh the map system, it's such a simple solution and it works so well. So the battle maps and breaks are divided into different areas, and you can move a number of areas a turn depending on your character's speed. Each area can have any number of characters in it at a time, and means you get some simple ways of applying terrain hazards, different weapon ranges, and a more tight and compact combat experience. There are plenty of different hazards you can mix and match, and just a simple beauty shown in this example is fantastic. Each turn you have your base movement and then an action that you can use to either perform preset actions like standard weapon attacks, moving again, using items, but you can also create custom actions. This is a special action working with the GM to perform some kind of feat via a special attack or making use of an attribute. You can also make use of assist actions to aid your allies in various ways. You can also forego your action on your turn to instead make a reaction to a pre-declared trigger, giving that fun extra layer of tactics to it, where if you put thought into what you do but without too much complexity, making you spend way too long overthinking everything. Your characters will have quite a few values and modifiers to keep track of during combat, but thankfully the sheet does do a good job at keeping them nice and clear for you. When making attacks, you roll your d20 plus attack bonus with the aim of beating your opponent's defense rating. On a success, you deal damage depending on the weapon used. All weapons have preset damage values, and these lower hearts by the same amount, the game's health system. This works really well as a method of preventing pesky one-shots, and keeps the back and forth of combat feeling really fun and never too weighted in either direction. When you lower a foe's hearts to 0, you can choose to either slay or incapacitate them, but when your hearts gets lowered, you get to roll on the injury table. This is a series of progressively worsening debuffs, potentially resulting in death. The first injury you roll the green options, and when you're injured you can decide to bow out the fight there, but if your injury doesn't prevent it, you can keep going at risk of further injury. The second time you start rolling using the orange result, meaning there's now even more dangerous potential results you can suffer. And finally, from the third time you're hit, and every time after, you roll on the red table. And these have some nasty outcomes. Alongside death, you risk severed limbs and then, well, more creative methods of perishing. And my personal favourite part of the combat this game gives us, it's the colossal combat. This is pure gold. You fight giant enemies where different limbs will have their own hearts, trying to figure out which parts to target to find the core you need to destroy to slay them, or first focusing on its parts it's using as weapons to direct shot with your party. It's a perfect boss fight mechanic and really captures the game's inspirations. And whether it's through combat or exploring, you'll certainly feel the effects of the various ailments found in the game. And yes, Ballooned is one of them, but some of these ailments can be used in extremely clever ways. Ballooned, for example, states that those affected become buoyant, meaning they can float, meaning that, look here gang, we turned our wizard into a fun little boat. There's also a jellified condition which turns you into a slime creature, and just, y'all, this game makes my freak heart so happy. But where would an adventurer be without some downtime? This is typically your in-between adventure times, where you could be trying to recover from injuries, research some mysterious artifact or item you found during your journey, or working on your social aspect, forming bonds with characters, be them kind or heated, or building up your reputation. And if you happen to be skilled in a particular field and have the required resources, you can spend time crafting. And this is like the perfect level of depth for those who want to invest in it. You have access to a slowly growing crafting ability, gaining access to more recipes in projects to work on, the abilities to use different materials to imbue or upgrade existing items, or use the various monster parts and treasures you find on your quest to forge something truly unique. It's really well explained in the book, so if you're looking to play a master craftsman, you are truly in luck. Like most things in this game though, it doesn't always go to plan, and sometimes you get a little mishap, and these can be dodgy engineering, or if magic's involved, give you yet another method of swelling up with the bloating side effect, or accidentally giving that muffin you made sentience. And finally, the last mechanic I want to talk about is the gifts. Certain abilities give what's known as a Legion point, and these are either dark or bright, and every time you gain 3 of these points, and these are physical or magic changes to your character that don't inherently have any mechanical change, but do change the way certain groups and people in the world would perceive you. And I just think it's neat. There's so much more I can say about this game, but I think I've already yapped plenty about what's in it, and I really think it's for the best that you experience it all for yourselves. This game is what made me fall so in love with TTRPGs again, after feeling burnt by how the ones I used to play were treated. It made me want to share that love, and this channel wouldn't be here without it, and I'm so happy I finally had my video format nailed to truly be able to talk about it. It's a perfect balance of tactics, streamlined combat that flows absolutely perfectly, and gives plenty of room for creativity. I also just love the constant cool ideas and even more content that's constantly being put out on their blog. It's a game that just absolutely oozes love and care, and all the rewards and accolades it receives are so deserved. And wow, this might just be my longest script yet, but that's just how strongly this game resonated with me. Its mechanics suit me to a T. But what do you all think of the game? Think it's up your alley? Or maybe you've already played it and have some fun thoughts and stories to share? Leave them all in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and maybe subscribe for more. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting my silly little channel. It means the world to me. I've been Deval, and I'll see you next time. Happy adventuring.